I'm Judith Lay, welcoming you to the podcast of the Manx Sky at Night with Howard Parkin.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
And with that familiar music, we welcome into the studio Howard Parkin for this month's edition of the Manx Sky at Night. First am I, Howard, and welcome.
First am I, Judith. It's great to be here as usual, and not a bad night either.
Well, is it dark enough for you? That's the question.
No, not yet.
But it's coming, isn't it?
It is indeed. In fact, that's one of the first things I want to talk about, because August the 2nd sees the end of astronomical twilight being the only thing we get to see. On August the 2nd, the sun will actually dip more than 18 degrees below the horizon, so therefore we get about 40 minutes of night time. Real treat for us astronomers. You won't notice the difference, but I thought it'd be a good opportunity to explain what we talk about with astronomical twilight. And it's quite easy, really. It's a bit complicated, but it's dead easy, really. We have what we call astronomical twilight when the sun is 18 degrees below the horizon. That's the centre of the sun measured from the horizon. We have nautical twilight when the sun is 12 degrees below the horizon. And we have civil twilight. And of course, the angle the sun is at depends on where it is when it sets and rises, of course, the other way around. But in the middle of the summer, of course, the sun just skirts below the horizon, so we don't get the dark nights. But from August the 2nd, we are going to get nighttime back again, so us astronomers are going to get very happy.
Well, as long as you promise that we won't notice the difference, because we love, well, lots of us love the light nights.
I can't blame you. I mean, I love them myself, but...
yeah, you're a bit torn, aren't you?
Absolutely. Part of me wants it light, part of me wants it dark. But mind you, this summer's been rubbish, hasn't it? So, although last night, Judith, I confess I saw a star.
Wow.
I actually saw a star from my bathroom window about midnight. I thought, wow, it's the first star I've seen for ages. And it's just the weather's been rubbish. I mean, even when we've had nice nights, it's not been clear.
No.
It's been cloudy and warm. I mean, I'm in shorts tonight. I thought I'd put my shorts on. And, of course, I'm wearing my NASA T-shirt.
Well,
I don't know if we've got a webcam anywhere, but...
yes, we have. Yes,
well,
if you sort of point yourself in that direction, anybody's looking.
Johnson Space Flight Centre.
The detail on the webcam is very good.
Oh dear.
So people will be able to see. They'll be able to see your knees and your T-shirt. So there you go.
Now there's a treat.
You've dressed for the Howard, dressed for the show.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Moving swiftly on. So. The end of astronomical twilight. Now, we've been talking about these Perseid meteor showers for a week. And you said that something good was coming.
Very good. I mean, the Perseid meteor shower is the best of the year. Without any doubt, it is the best of the year. I would argue, or some astronomers may argue, the Geminids in December are better, but there's not much between it. It all depends on how many meteors are visible on each evening. But this year we're very lucky because the moon is at first quarter a couple of days before, so we'll set around 11 o'clock. So you've no excuses. By the time we get to mid-August, there'll be quite a bit of dark nights around, certainly around midnight time. That's the time to go and look for the Perseid meteors. But little point that someone pointed out to me the other day, we talk about they've finally arrived, they're going to arrive in our skies. It's not that way around. It's us that's arriving. Out in space, we've got a cloud of debris from the comet Swift-Tuttle, which is a periodic comet seen many times and many years ago. And what's happening is the Earth is now approaching that part of space where the debris from this comet resides. So it's us arriving in the debris field of Comet Swift-Tuttle, which is why we get to see these meteors and why we can predict them with such accuracy. And they really are quite spectacular. I remember I always talk about it. 2015, we had a really spectacular display. No moon, clear nights. That's obviously the two things we really need. Well, I've arranged no moon for us, Jude. If it's up to you to arrange the clear skies now, please.
Okay, right. That's not a problem.
I'm delighted to hear it. But
I wish.
I wish as well. No, it really is good. All you've got to do is remember, you don't need to know where the constellation Perseus is. I mean, if you want to know where Perseus is, it's below Cassiopeia. So where's Cassiopeia? Find the plough. Follow the 2 pointers of the plough to the pole star, which sits on the northern horizon. 55 degrees, 54 degrees above it. Of course, that's our latitude. Follow the line straight across. You come to a W shape. That W shape is Cassiopeia. Below the W shape, to the bottom right of it, you'll see the constellation Perseus. But don't worry about that, because the meteors will all seem to stream from Perseus. Therefore, they could be all across the sky. You can trace them back to a radiant point, we call it, where the meteors seem to come from, and that's in the constellation of Perseus, which is why we call them the Perseid meteors. They're nothing to do with the constellation. It just happens to be that's the line of sight, that's the constellation the radiant point is in. And just as we have the Leonids and the Geminids and the I can't think of a shower now, all the Draconids, all these different meteor showers we get are named after the constellation, not because they come from the constellation, but because they come from a radiant point which is within the constellation from a line of sight effect.
You know, a couple of interesting points that you're just making there, Howard, that we do tend to forget that there is movement involved in all of this, that we tend to think that because we don't feel like we're moving, we're sitting in a studio, it's hard to remember that the Earth is moving, everything's moving.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what the ancients couldn't understand. They had the Earth at the centre of the universe. The whole idea that the Earth was the absolute centre of the universe and the sky revolved around the Earth. And it took Kepler and Galileo and Copernicus and all them to finally convince everybody they were right. And of course, it was Isaac Newton. And have I told you the link with Isaac Newton and the Isle of Man? I have a link with Isaac Newton and the Isle of Man.
I don't believe you have told me.
Well, that's a lovely lead-in, isn't it? That was not rehearsed, ladies and gentlemen, I assure you. It's a lovely story. It's an absolutely wonderful story, because Bishop Isaac Barrow was the Bishop of the Isle of Man. And he was the Bishop of the Isle of Man way back in the 17th century. And we thought at one stage the two Isaac Barrows were the same, but they're not. Isaac Barrow had a nephew, and Isaac Barrow's nephew was the Lucasian Professor of Mathematics at Cambridge University. And Isaac Barrow, the nephew of our bishop, saw coming up through the ranks this student at Cambridge who was a genius, know the word for it, and he gave up his job for this genius, who was Isaac Newton. So there you go. Isaac Newton's got his job through the nephew of the Bishop of the Isle of Man.
Isn't that excellent? And Bishop Isaac Barrow had a connection. Was he not one of the founding fathers of King William's College?
He set up the educational foundation, which ultimately led to the foundation of King William's College. And that's why, of course, when you go there, you go to the Barrovian Hall, named after Bishop Isaac Barrow.
So
I take any connection. Believe me. I can find it no matter how tenuous I'll use it.
But it's great. It doesn't matter how slender the connection is. It's a connection.
Exactly.
And what we're looking at here is a very outward-looking family, weren't they? They were
very much so,
constantly looking beyond themselves. Bishop Barrow with an educational foundation, and his nephew seeing somebody else's potential.
Yeah. Can you imagine it now? A professor at Cambridge giving up their role for one of these undergraduates coming through. It just wouldn't happen, would it? I mean, the mechanics of it, the mechanics wouldn't let it happen. It would happen differently, should I say?
It would happen differently. I would like to think that the talent, and I'm sure talent is recognised and lifted up.
So.
But in those days, let's put it in context. In those days, it was giving up a huge amount more than it would have been now.
Oh yes, it would have been.
Somebody with exceptional promise would, I'm sure, be given the platform they needed, but it wouldn't be at somebody else's expense.
No.
But it
Newton
was in
really
those days.
Newton really is. I've often said to people, if I could go for dinner with four people, you know, the idea of having dinner with people, it'd be Newton, Einstein and Stephen Hawking. They'd be my four. Yes, I'd love Neil Armstrong to be there as well, but those four scientists, I mean, those really...
Well, hang on. If it's four plus you could have Neil Armstrong
I'll have
as
Neil
well,
Armstrong as well then. Thanks, Neil. Look forward to having dinner with you.
I was listening to an audio book earlier in the week, and it was, I only listened to a little bit of it, time didn't permit it, but it was talking about discoveries, talking about Galileo. But the interesting thing was that the people who were making the discoveries then, Leonardo da Vinci and all these people, they didn't just dwell on one thing. They were so clever.
Oh, look at Leonardo. I mean, he did so much.
Yeah.
And completely, I mean, he was a designer, he was an artist, he was a scientist, he was an astronomer.
But,
but really they seem to
characters. They seem to make one discovery and then go on to another and to another in another field.
Yeah.
So,
well, Newton was into alchemy. He was into alchemy. He believed he could turn lead into gold. He was trying to find out how he could do it. He isn't wrong, because you can, using nuclear fusion, you can change the amount one type of element to another, but the energy involved is far excessive of any benefit you'd get. But he was looking into this, and he was also the governor of the mint, the mint of of England. They made the coins for us. So
Well,
amazing bloke. I look forward to having my dinner with him.
Governor of the Mint who can turn things into gold.
That'd be handy.
Good pairing
It'd be
there.
very handy, wouldn't it?
Let's get back to the skies,
I
Howard.
think we
Let's
better
get
have.
back.
I think we should.
The planets, Mars and Jupiter,
Yes.
back in our skies soon.
Now, what's happened is there's been a dearth of planets recently. We've had no planets visible whatsoever for ages, it seems. Since literally about February onwards, we've had nothing at all. They've all come back. They're all coming back to us, Judith. We've got Jupiter in Taurus at the moment, and Taurus, incidentally, is just below Perseus, rising around midnight time. We've got Jupiter in Taurus, joined by Mars. Now, Jupiter moves very slow, 12 years to go around the sky, around the sun, and Mars moving much quicker, only 2 years. And Mars and Jupiter are going to get closer and closer together. And in fact, on the 14th of August, they're going to swap over. We're going to have what we call a close planetary conjunction on the 14th of August. And that'll be actually on the 15th of August, in the early hours of the morning, Mars passes very close to Jupiter, my book says. This isn't, we do plan these things, ladies and gentlemen. But the other thing I want people to spot for, now this is a bit of fun for you. On the 5th of August, which is what? It's the 1st on Thursday, so a week on Monday, a week tomorrow. Get yourselves over to Peel and see if you can spot the very thin crescent moon. The very thin crescent moon. It's always a bit of a challenge to try and spot the full moon after it's been a new moon. And the new moon, I think, is off the top of my head, is the 31st of July. So 3, 4, 5 days later, we've got this opportunity to find a very thin crescent moon. Why do we want to do that? Because just below to the right of it is Venus. Venus has finally re-emerged now from behind the back of the sun and is now re-emerging into our evening sky, albeit in the morning. And it's well worth looking for. And if you in the evening sky, it's just appearing in the evening sky now, very close to the horizon, very close to the sun, but noticeably visible. And even in a light sky, with the moon pointing the way, you should see it. That'll be your first chance to see Venus in our evening sky, and it's going to be dominating our skies over the next few months, and I'll be talking about it probably every month.
I was just going to say, am I right in thinking that Venus is the one that hangs around for quite a while?
It does. Once it comes up, it'll come up, and literally, as we get closer and closer to Venus, it'll move up higher and higher in our sky, and then it will drop. And then it will disappear again, and then it'll do the same thing in the morning sky. But this time round, it's going to be in our evening sky right for the winter. So we're going to have a beautiful sight of it in the winter sky. And everyone's going to be saying it's the star of Bethlehem. And it's not. It's the planet Venus. But that's a story for another programme, I think, Judith.
Indeed,
But
it is.
we've also got Saturn lingering around as well. Saturn isn't far away as well. And Saturn's going to be visible a bit later on as the evenings draw on in the early hours of the morning. So all 4 bright planets, Venus, Mars, Jupiter and Saturn, all going to be visible over the course of the next month and getting much better over the course of the next few months. And I'll no doubt be talking about them and telling you when you can see them. But look for Jupiter and Mars close together on the 14th of August. You're going to have to be looking around midnight time, but hey, it's gone past astronomical twilight now, so we've got dark skies.
And the sun is still very active.
Oh, very much.
So you did promise that there was a possibility still of an aurora.
And there still is. I mean, I was reading an article only yesterday. The sun is now at what we think is most active it's been for 11 years. It really is very active. And it's spewing out this material in the form of coronal mass ejections material. Imagine a garden sprinkler. Maybe these rotating garden sprinklers. The sun is the sprinkler, and the rotating sun spits out these beams, if you like, for want of a better expression, of material. And if it intercepts with the Earth, we're going to get another aurora. I can't swear to it, but I reckon sometime in the next 12 months we're going to get another reasonable display of aurora. Now, the aurora tends to peak at the time of the 2 equinoxes. That's late September and 21st of September, 21st of March. So next month we'll be talking about the sun again. There may well have been another display of aurora, another coronal mass ejection, but just keep your eyes and ears peeled. And if you hear on the news, which they're usually quite good at telling people, they usually predict them about a couple of days ahead if we're going to get anything in particular, well worth going out and having a look for.
But I do believe there is an app that you can get
Oh, yes.
for your smartphone, an Aurora Watch
Aurora Watch
app.
UK, Aurora Watch UK, which is based in Lancaster. They're very good indeed. There's a whole host of different aurora apps you can get, and what they're doing, they're monitoring the amount of activity on the sun. And if there's a decent outburst on the sun, it'll all be flagged up. Funniest thing is today, and please don't do this at home, people, never look at the sun directly, but it's very cloudy today, and you could see the solar disk through the clouds. And I was looking just with my eye, see if I could see any spots on it, because the big sunspots can be seen with the naked eye. But please, I'm not encouraging anyone to do that. Make sure you know what you're doing. Never, ever, ever use any form of optical aid to look at the sun, because if the sun suddenly comes out from behind the clouds, you're in trouble, and you could blind yourself. As Patrick Moore once said, you've got two chances, left eye and right eye.
Yeah. Very, very, very wise and sobering words. Well, we just had to have this for the music choice, didn't we? Because Howard would like it to be forever autumn.
The sun is fading as the year grows old, and darker days are drawing near. The winter winds will be much colder. Now you're not here. I watch the birds fly south across the autumn sky, and one by one they disappear. I wish that I was flying with them. Now you're not here. Like the sun through the trees, you came to love me. Like a leaf on a breeze, you blew away. Through autumn's golden gown, we used to kick our way. You always love this time of year. Those fallen leaves lie undisturbed now, 'cause you're not here. 'Cause you're not here.
It is a brilliant track, and I hate to fade it down. It was Howard's choice because he would like it to be forever autumn. But we've got to jump back straight in now. I'm with Howard Parkin. It's the July issue of the Manx Sky at Night, and we have to have our space news. So come on, what's going on, Howard? What are the big stories?
Well, you know, Judith, it always amazes me. I think to myself, there's not much going on. Then I look at the news and then I realise, because I'm sort of not doing my night school classes at the university college at the moment, so I sort of take my foot off the gas a little bit. But then we're doing another cruise in August, so I've got to start thinking about it again. Started looking at all the news, and it's incredible what's going on. First of all, we found a lot of caves on the moon. Now, that is a very exciting story, because they found these caves in the Sea of Tranquility, no less. And they think they're quite deep and they're quite accessible. And these will obviously be very useful for the setting up of a lunar base, which is coming. It's going to be coming in the next 10 years, I would reckon. We're going to land on the moon and eventually set up a moon base, probably in the next 10, 15 years. So that was a very exciting story, which occurred a few weeks ago. But the link with Forever Autumn, of course, is great from an Astronomical Twilight point of view, but also it's from the War of the Worlds, and we all talk about Mars. And only a few days ago, on the 21st of July, NASA announced that Perseverance rover on Mars had actually discovered a rock, quite a big rock, but it's got distinct signs of fossilised bacteria. It's got evidence that there was actually some form of biological activity on Mars. It's not 99% proven. It is a very exciting discovery, and it matches what the scientists have felt for years, that maybe Mars had life on it, primitive life, amoeba, bacteria, whatever, but then the atmosphere was stripped away and stripped off it, and of course everything died. But we're looking for fossilised life, and if we prove that Mars did have life, albeit ancient bacteria or fossils of tiny creatures or whatever, it proves that the scientists have got it right. The idea that planets evolve over a period of time, but Mars was too small to hang on to its atmosphere. It was stripped off by the solar wind, and as a consequence the oceans boiled away, and we're left with sedimentary rocks on the surface now, or sedimentary features and erosion features. And the next step was to try and find some form of life. And this rock, this massive rock they found, is about 3 foot by 2 foot. I say massive, but it's certainly big by standards. And there's certainly distinctive signs that there could have been some ancient biological life on Mars. And that would be the first true indication of life elsewhere in the universe, to be blank, to be true. So that's why it's so important.
Well, yeah, because surely that same principle could apply in other places.
Of course it could. I mean, we're looking at the moons of Jupiter, we're looking at the moons of Saturn, and Enceladus around Saturn and Europa around Jupiter, and we believe they may well have the characteristics of life could evolve on those planets. And now, of course, take that to the nearest star systems. We've got these star systems. We now know that lots of stars have got planets around them, and we're finding planets now that are Earth-sized or bigger, but they've got the components that could possibly lead to life evolving on those planets. So it's all very exciting. And this quest, this looking for extraterrestrial life, not little green men. We're not looking for little green men or communicating with flying saucers or anything rubbish like that. We're looking for the possibility of life evolving, because it gives us a greater understanding of our place in the universe and how we've evolved, and indeed how other planets have evolved.
Yeah, that's the key to it. It's our place in the universe.
Exactly, that's what it's all about.
And how it's a giant timeline. I would guess
it's a huge timeline when you think about it. We talk about the universe being 13.8 billion years old, according to the latest Hubble and Webb discoveries. So you have a timeline, the human life cycle. I mean, I often do in my lectures about if you divide a year into a calendar year into the age of the universe. The universe started at the Big Bang on the 1st of January. We're now the 31st of December. We came into being about 3 minutes before midnight. That's not our life cycle. That's not our 310, or hopefully a lot more than that. But that's going back to the pyramids and things like that. So in about 1,000 years, it equates to about 3 minutes on the astronomical time scale of a year. And it's just fascinating. So if life could have evolved at different times, they may have born and died or whatever, but it certainly gives us hope and gives us encouragement that we're looking in the right way and we're looking in the right areas. And Mars is very exciting, and I think it's only a matter of time before we get proof that there's ancient biological life on Mars.
Fascinating.
Not little green men.
No.
Nothing to do with little green men. I get that all the time, but
no,
it's green as well. I don't know why.
Well, it's tradition, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
No, we understand exactly what you're saying, Howard. Now, just while we've got time, the Starliner. Let's go back to this story from a month ago, because it arrived on the International Space Station at the beginning of June.
Yes, it went up there on the 6th of June, I think it was, and it was meant to be there for 5 days, and it's still there. They're doing tests on an equivalent spacecraft down in the Arizona desert for the Boeing people. They're not comfortable with some of the faults that occurred on the spacecraft as it docked with the International Space Station, so they're not risking the lives of the astronauts. The astronauts are quite safe on the ISS. They're staying there until they can be 100% convinced that the spacecraft is safe enough to bring them down. They're not marooned in space, despite what you might read in the media. They're not marooned at all. They're working up in the International Space Station. They're valuable members of the crew, the expedition that's taking place there at the moment. And if all else failed, they could come back down on another spacecraft, on maybe a Dragon spacecraft or one of the Soyuz spacecraft. But they will bring the Starliner down, and they'll bring it down. But they reckon it's got 3 months' life before the batteries, or there became problems when it couldn't be used again. So we're 2 months in now, so they've got another month yet. So I think you'll see some movement in mid-August.
Yeah, but I guess that it's so valuable to find out exactly what has happened.
Oh, yeah.
They can't do anything, as nobody is at risk, and there are lots of options. They need to learn as much.
I think 5 thrusters failed, and they know what was wrong with 4 of them, but the other one, they don't know why it failed. And the thrusters, of course, position the spacecraft in the right attitude so that it re-enters properly and doesn't cause them any problems. So, incidentally, when they do land, it'll be the first time that humans have landed on soil in America ever. All the astronauts have always landed down in the sea.
Splashed down, yes.
Or they've come onto a runway, but actually landing a capsule like the Russians do.
Yes.
It'll be a first for a ballistic landing on land.
Well, it's all first, isn't it?
It's all exciting stuff.
Right, and we wait upon you to keep us posted.
Oh, I certainly will.
Right, and we're going to be able to see the International Space Station in our night skies, are we?
Yes, not till the end of August. I was hoping I could have said tonight it's going to be visible in the next few weeks, but it's not. It's not visible now till about after the 23rd, 24th of August in the morning sky. and then it will re-emerge in the evening sky in September. So I'll probably talk about that again in September. But there is one other big news story to say, and watch out for the media this weekend, because Starship, Elon Musk's Starship, the 5th test flight of this. Remember, we've had some very exciting, the first 2 didn't do as well, but they've evolved, it got better and better and better. The 5th test launch of a Starship is taking place, we think, no earlier than the 3rd of August, so next Friday or Saturday. And this time, this is not science fiction. I'm saying this with a straight face, Judith. The first stage of the rocket, they're going to try and catch it. They've got this launch platform with big arms. They're called chopsticks, for want of a better word. And as the rocket comes in to land, instead of landing on landing legs, which are difficult to deploy in the weight of this thing, they're going to catch it using the Mechanizilla arms. It's incredible. It will probably work, maybe not first time, but this is the way SpaceX keep doing it. They're just pushing ahead and ahead with different ideas. And the 5th test, we'll wait and see. So I'm looking forward to that immensely.
Well, I'm sure you are. I'm sure everybody is. But they just keep trying and trying and trying. It's all much faster than when now it's in private hands.
Launch it, break it, fix it, launch it. That's the SpaceX motto.
Well, yes.
Launch it, break it, fix it, launch it.
And their budget for it must be astronomical, at the risk of making a pun.
If ever there was an appropriate word for it, indeed there is.
Yeah, don't even want to try to put a price ticket on it.
No.
We've just got a couple of seconds left, Howard. What should we be...
Well, last Tuesday, they announced at the Farnborough Air Show that Axiom, who are a private space mission using the SpaceX Dragons, Axiom is a chap called Jared Isaacman, who's pouring money into this. He's a friend of Elon Musk's, obviously, and they've just announced they're going to launch an all-British crew on one of the Axiom spacecraft into orbit, four of them, and that mission, we don't know the timeline for that is going to happen, but they've made Tim Peake, the chief, not the astronaut, he's not going to fly in it, but he's going to be in charge of getting everything set up, and it's a very exciting commercial spaceflight mission. And I've just been putting together a series of a new talk I'm doing. And when I look at the amount of different types of spacecraft that are now going into space, it's incredible. You've got the Chinese, the Russians, the Americans, you've got Axiom, you've got Dragon, you've got SpaceX, you've got Blue Origins, you've got Virgin. So many things going on. It's difficult keeping pace with them. But I'll try my best, Judith, and keep you and the listeners informed as we go through the show each month.
Do your very best. It brings me back to the comment I always make, Howard. I just wonder if there's enough space up there for them all.
Well, I do wonder that myself.
Howard Parkin, our Astronomer-in-Chief, thank you very much indeed for joining us this month, and we look forward to talking to you again, Howard, on the final Sunday in the month of August.
Thank you, Judith. Look forward to it myself.
The Nation Station.